Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So here, first of all, you've got dependency injection. This is when you have or a service or an object, or it belongs to a certain class, and you will have a function that you have to execute. So in fact, you have this is like a design pattern, such that you use external resources. So you don't have to create them; you simply call them. It is like you had your HTTP published service and you were receiving your result based on your request. So in this case, this all depends on a certain class, as you've seen with the heroes, get the heroes, create the heroes. Okay. So in this case, you see it as being over here. Inside your heroes, you have also the service, such that you will have instances of cars, heroes, which are displayed. So first of all, you see that you've got here a car. So the car will have its definition. So it's also linked to your OP part, such that it is composed of a certain engine. Let's say that it has a number of cylinders by default. Then you will have your tires. Also, you will have the car, which has this at. So you have this metadata with at, such that you will have to inject it. So as you can see, you take it from Angular core. And in this example, you have the description as having this design pattern of injectable. As well as for it, you need to provide exactly which is your construct according to the engine and the tire. So as you can see, this engine is in fact an object of type engine, as well as tires. It depends on the one that you have defined here. So those are by default. As you can see, you have these with 4 tires. Then you also have a function with drive, and you have all them as being public. So this is why you don't need to define any getters, setters, such that here you have a return and you will have the car's description. You put it between these quotes at 45 degrees and you get the current description with this dot. Then you also have, so why do you have here this dot and here you need to go in order to get the cylinders inside engine? Because description is an attribute of the current class car. It is public, so I can call it with this, being for the current instance of the class. While I also have for my car a certain engine which is associated. So this is when I need to call it with this dot engine, the one that I have here, and then it has the attribute associated, which is a cylinder. And the same is for tires, so you can get exactly the make for it. And in the same manner, you can call the model, for example. Okay, so for this one, it will appear whether you want to call it inside your HTML page as being an app car. And this app car should be defined where? So here you have for the whole app, you have the app route, and inside it, you see here that app route depends on the app component. And the app component, in fact, will have all this structure. So as you can see in H1, you've got the title that exists also inside your app config TS. So this is exactly your title, the dependency injection. And you've also got your API endpoint. So it will look at apiheroes.com. Let's see. So first of all, this is one component. This is app minus car. Then you have your app minus injectors. Also, you will have your app tests. So this is for it. Also, you have the part with the users, where for user, you will have to take the user info. So in fact, it looks at user service. Okay, then you take them one by one to go through them. And here you will have the part with next user. So what you define here as next user, in fact, you use the user service to reach it. If I go over here, you see that inside my app component, I have the constructor, and for it, I will have the inject, such that according to the app configuration. And here I depend on a user service as well as the title of my configuration. And as a result, I will check whether or not I have my user authorized. And then I can receive my next user based on my user service. So user service, which is the one defined over here, it is globally available, meaning that for my user, I also inject it. So I have my service. And based on what I have here, I simply provide the values. As you can see, it will simply parse the values that you provide here. So first of all, for a user, you've got a constructor based on name and whether it is authorized. Then when you want to create it, so here you also have the new of user, where you override the part with is authorized for Alice to be true. As you can see, it is authorized. As well as over here, you have the service. So in fact, you inject based on the instances of user service, where first of all, you start from the user, which is Bob. Whether you want to go to the next user, it would be whether the current user is Bob, what you need to return is Alice, this instance. And if not, if the user is Alice, then you need to go back to Bob. You have these two options. And as you can see, you provide it as a service with this inject. And this is why you can go through them. Okay. Going back again to your application. Okay, these components. So again, we were here. As you can see, when you have the user info and next user, in fact, it uses this one, the next user injectable service of my user service class. And then going back to the app component. I can also check whether it's authorized. So again, what it will look at user and at the attribute whether it's authorized. So you have this one and it's public. So this is why you don't need to define any getters, setters. Okay, so here you can also do the getters. Okay. As well as when you want the next user, it will look at what? At my user service and call the get new user function. So it will call exactly this function. Okay, to simply parse between those instances, I don't depend on an external database. I just have my records over here, which I serve. So this is why I have injected. Then I can also have the get of user. So it means that I retrieve just the current user. So it means that based on the service, I get the current instance of the user that I have. So this one, it will be exactly this one according to which of either object you have, or Alice or Bob.
Sorry, what
Yeah.
I don't really understand. What is injectable doing exactly? I'm a bit
So
confused regarding that.
this is when for this class, you serve it exactly as a service. So you don't depend on an external database. You already define your instances and you go through them. It is like here, you don't need to look, you don't have the get, HTTP get with
Yeah,
subscribe. You just have
yeah.
a service based on the instances of the class.
And okay, so that's what's injectable doing?
Yeah, you also have it over here. So as you can see, you serve a class or the object of the class. Okay, so this is when you serve the object of this class, which is user. Okay, and you have here, you request some external resources, so you don't create them. You have them over here as objects, and this is how with injectable you simply serve them. Okay. So you define your own service, which is locally. So as you can see, you have a user service to get a new user. meaning that for a class, you go and you access the following instances. Yeah. So it's not like before. If I go to Stack Blitz, this one, the heroes. Okay, yeah. Here you are having also your heroes, but what I do have, so it's also with injectable to get message by message, but what I will serve are exactly these database records. So you didn't have to, so it's also based on a class, but here it is based on the service that it has. Recall. So you have the get, but you also have the service for it. Okay, this is the one. So here you have the get of heroes with observable. So based on the call that you have of API heroes, you will have a certain call over here. So it's also based, as you can see, get heroes, so it will be a service and you subscribe to it. But it's a service that it's here in memory, so you create it. Okay. So this one was based on JSON, this JSON for your heroes, according to your hero definition. So it's again based on a class, what it contains. While over here, you have the class, you have the instances of the class. You don't have them as JSONs, and you simply serve them without having the subscribe. So here it was with the subscribe for it. Okay, this is the one. Get heroes and you subscribe to a service and you retrieve it. While over here, I don't need to subscribe, I just call it. So let's see, as you can see, this user get new user. Okay, so you call it. So you have two options. Okay, as well as it can be like in the app where you had the part with a Spring and you are calling it externally to retrieve your resources. Okay, as you will also see for the part with the register and the login, so you will have the controller defined in Spring. Okay. So coming back to this one, as you can see, when I want to display this answer, in fact, with get user info is the one from here. You are inside the app component, and inside the app component, I want to visualize user by user, as well as I have this next user function. So in fact, it will be an inject, and based on the user service, it will call exactly this new user function. Okay, base, and it will inject where? Inside the root of your application. So this is the one with app route. Okay. Such that you have current user. For the current user, you get the name. So basically, it looks inside the definition of user and to take the name for it. So it will have this one. It is public, so it's all right. It is accessible. Then you also need to check whether or not you have it authorized or not. So let's see. Here you have this is authorized. You have the question mark. So whether it is true, then you don't have anything. It will simply say that it's authorized. It won't add any substring before it. And whether it is false, it will add this not. So you will have current user Alice. Alice is defined over here. The value is true, so it is authorized. While for Bob, it will have to add the substring with not. Okay. Then let's see the ones with the cars. So app cars will look over here. And for each and every one, so it will have cars with H2. Then for it, you will have a certain ID or type by type. So it will have the car, the drive, which it will call, and then you have.
Interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
If you have here in template, you define that HTML part, you don't need a car.html
Exactly.
file.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need it anymore. You already associate it.
Okay, but can you have both? I guess
Yeah,
don't.
you can have both. Yes, why not? In here, yeah, this one. As you can see, this one has both. So you, instead of template URL, you say, okay, I link it to the file, which is hero component HTML. So in fact, it will take this part and it will consider it inside. So this is how you link.
Okay, but I don't see how would you have both of them. I mean,
So you do it, no, you do it either way. So or you put it with HTML, or you add it in this way by simply having it.
Okay, so if it's something small and simple, you can put
Exactly.
it in them.
Yeah. But
Thank
if
you.
it's really long, so it's better to have it here separately.
Okay.
And you have it here as being a template URL, so it knows that you have this link. Or if you have the HTML code, you have just template. So this is just your option. So you're welcome. Okay, so here, as you can see, you have multiple types of cars. You will have the car factory. This is again a design pattern. Okay, maybe you do recall it. So according to a design pattern of car factory, it will simply create objects of a certain type. So here you will have the classes that you want to use in order to create a new instance of a certain class. So you can have engines, you can have tires, you can have a car. Meaning that for each one of them being inside factory, you can create an object of type car, such that you will have a car of what? A car depends on an engine and on tires. So this is why it depends on both of them, and it will call it, as well as you provide a description, okay, and then you return it. So in fact, it will have the constructor, okay, which is over here. So in fact, for your constructor, it uses a factory, and you will have to create the engine, which will call a new engine also placed inside car, so as you can see. So it's here. So this is the definition of engine and your definition of tires. Okay, so this is the part with the factory. Then what you see here is also to have this use of injector. So it's placed inside car injector, which is this one. So in fact, you depend again on car, on engine, on tires. And when you have your TS file, you don't need to have the .ts. You can place it as just being car. Then you also have your logger. So logger means that you will have here exactly the text. So like over here, car injector said something. Okay, so you will have your loggers. Then let's see. So first of all, you have injector based on injector from Angular. And here you create it with injector.create based on your providers. So in fact, you have your car from cars, and now you also have dependencies. So for a car, you need to have the link towards engine and tires. So if I look here inside car, I need both of them. Then, which is my dependency for a engine? Well, I don't have any dependency because I just have the cylinders. So it doesn't depend on absolutely anything. Then I also have my tires, and it's the same story. It doesn't depend on anything. After which, for my car, what I can do is to receive it. And in this case, it will add the part with the description. So the description will have injector, and this is why you have here the beginning of it with a description as being injected. Then what I can do is to create it, so to provide it and to be inside the log. And what it will simply do will be inside the logger, it will say that an injector car.drive had exactly the answer. It will be like here, hero service, it injected a value. Okay, this is how this one works. Okay, then you can also have the part with the factory car. Okay, and then for the factory car, you can call the drive method. Okay. As well as you can have the one with no DI, so no injection. For no injection means that you define the car, everything is public, engine, tires, description. So let's say you don't have any description. It is like this one, no description. And over here for engine, I will have to create a new instance of engine, a new instance of tires. Tires again received from my class.car. So it's again looking here. And also I have my drive methods. So those drive methods are when I receive the car's description. Then I have the word car width. After that, I will have exactly the value for my cylinders. So this is when, for example, I have the 4 value, after which I will have exactly the type of the tires, okay, which are associated to the car. All right, so this is the part with no. Then we can also have the part with a simple car. So simple car is inside car creations. And car creations is over here. So first of all, again, I take the class car, engine, and tires from car. If I want to create a simple car, so I use the constructor from my class car. So looking here, I have my constructor, which is used. And then what I can do is to add a description for it to be simple. What I can also have is a class engine 2 with the engines that I have as a number, as well as I can have this supercar. So supercar is in fact when I have my cylinders, and for my cylinders, what I want to do is to associate which is the number for it. So I will have a car, then I will place it as being a new engine 2, according to the value which is this 12, so it will be exactly this one. And I associate the tires. Also what I can add is the car description. Okay, and over here you can also extend, so you can have a subtype of engine and you can have a mock engine. So what you will do in fact is to override the value for your cylinders, and let's say that you want to have 8, as well as you can do it also for your tires. So again, what you will do will be to override the mock tires, and you will have to add the values for the tires as being this Yoko good stuff. Now when you want to test it, in fact, you will create an instance of car based on your mock engine, which extends engine, so it's okay. So add it here, it's a subtype of engine, as well as you have your subtype of tires. And now you will have your test car, which is the one displayed over here. Okay, so this is how you can have either ways. So for each one of them, you simply serve them and they appear. So as you can see, you have exactly the simple car, the drive method, okay, which will display exactly this definition. So you have exactly this info that you create. Okay. Now, similarly, you have the part with other injections. So other injections, you will have them here, app injectors. All right, and for your app injectors, this one also depends on your services. So, okay, when you define something like this, what you need to add, it's again according to the prefix. Okay, so let's see to recall where it was. App injector, so it's inside the component. Okay. Okay, so this is okay. It's over here with app injectors. Okay, and being visually okay. It was exactly under here. All right. So over here, no matter where you place it inside the folder as a component or you place it in the exterior, you find it according to the app injectors. Also for it, you have this part with other injectors inside H2. And now inside my H2, what I can do is that for the car, I can call the drive method. And it's again, it depends on car, engine, tires from car. Then for a hero, which is defined inside heroes, I will call the name for my hero, as well as I can have a rodent. Right, so you will have several providers, either car from cars, either you have your engine also from car, so it will look here. This is why you have car/car. Then tires is placed at the same level, as well as you've got the hero service provider, which is this one. Okay. Then you've also got your logger, which is placed inside the logger service. So let's see in fact what it does. So you will have an injector component based on what? What you want to get is in fact a car, you've got a service and a hero. So in fact my injector will get a certain car, which is the one by default. So if I go in car TS, it's exactly this one with the Flintstone car with 4 cylinders. Then if I want the hero service looks inside heroes of hero service. Okay, so it is exactly this one. And what it will do is in fact that it will inject inside root, and it will create in fact a new hero service based on the user, which is authorized or not. Okay. So here, when you want to have the user, in fact, you will have a logger, and it will be by default, it will have this boolean of authorized. So when you get your heroes, in fact, it will want to check whether the hero is authorized, or if it is false, you have it unauthorized. Then it will simply display a message that it will get the heroes for a certain user. And in this way, you simply receive it. So you do the filtering, whether it's authorized or not, whether the hero is secret. So it depends on the definition of the hero, having an ID, a name, and the secret. So for it, what you have here is in fact the list of heroes placed inside the mock. And you have the hero ID, whether it is a secret, let's say, and also the name. Now, inside it, inside my app heroes, I have my heroes label, and I also list them. In fact, this is the part with the listing that I do have. Okay, and this is the one, again, to display the listing. Okay, based on my service, and now I have my service provider. So in fact, when I have a factory is the one that you create. A factory will mean that you will create a new hero service. And for my hero service, I need to have a provider. So in fact, my provider depends on my hero service. The factory is the one from hero service factory to create it. And it also depends on your logger. So you have all these loggers over here. Then for the module, this is by default how it looks like, as well as you display them one by one. So when you want to list them, in fact, it looks at all the heroes that you've got inside the list based on the mock. And what it will do is to get the ID, like here. Then you have this minus and you get hero name. Okay. As well as now you will have the filtering. So whether hero.secret is true, you have it as being a secret, or whether it's false, you have it as being public. So it is public because all of them have the is secret as being false. Okay, this is how it displayed it. Okay, as well as you see that you've got the part with the service. So in fact, you provide a service for it based on the service module, as you've seen before. But this is the empty one, so this is just a sketch for it. Okay. So now you are having each and every user. Again, when you want to display one by one, you have this next user. So in fact, it has this user service to go through them. As well as what you can do is to check whether or not they are authorized. So you will have this ngIf of authorized, and you will have them displayed. What you also see is this app provider. So the app provider, as you can see, you will have here the component, okay, with the module for it, or the provider. So you will have several components, as well as you declare them. So in fact, for all these providers, what you do is that you link it to a hero service provider, because you check them one by one, as well as you've got your logger and your user service. So for the first provider, okay, which you did add here, provider one component, okay, this is the one, provider one component. This is the one which is called here, and it knows that it needs to look inside providers.component. Okay, what it will do, in fact, it will have a log, and it will simply have this message, log from logger with logger class. So this is why you've got this one. Okay, and it will be displayed. Then what you also have is another provider based on ID3, and this is according to the class. So it's again a provider based on your logger, as well as you will have your user class, such that you have the log for it. And inside the constructor, this is how you simply add it inside the log. Then what you can also have is to have, let's say, a better logger. So the better logger is in fact the class that you add. You have the provider as being logger, the one from logger service. Okay, where logger service is this one. So for each and every log, what you have is in fact an array. Okay, and you have them one by one. Then what it will do when I have the log method, when it will be called based on the message. So the message of this component, which is here, this is, as you can see, you call logger.log, meaning that this method is called. And what it will do is, in fact, to add a new message which will be displayed after that. So you have the push for it, as well as you can see it in the console if you want. And you take them one by one. So again, you can have an event better logger. And for this event better logger, you have your user service. You also have your username. So you can have this message too. And by default, the person is Bob. So when I change it over here, as you can see, it is whether it's authorized or not. And why does this one change? Well, it's because inside, let's see, app component. Okay, this is the one. Whether it is authorized or not, you just see them. So ls is authorized, and as you can see, you also have this tab, which is displayed also if I have this authorized as being true. So this is why I display the same thing with authorized, but it has another parameter. Okay, so whether you have two conditions which are true, both of them will appear. Okay, as well as, okay, returning to my provider, I will also have the other messages. So here I have a message to, and it will be according to the username, which is by default Bob. Then I will also have the hello from a component, okay, which is an even better logger. And you simply add it inside, as well as you have some messages. Let's say you can export, you can have an error that you shouldn't call an older logger, or you can simply change one of them and see which one is expected. Okay. So this is just to, so when you change them, you will have this hello from the new logger. Then you also have the provider 6. Based on the types, whether they are different, you will have an error, or if not, it will say that you have hello from an alias, being this one. As well as you can have a component with a certain logs based on a message, okay, which is this one. And what you will do, in fact, is to link it. So you have it as a provider based on this cons, and it will simply be displayed inside a log. And even you can have this one with the value. So again, you place it inside the log. Okay. Or you can inject it in the following way, but it's still really similar. And even for the config, maybe you have a config title. So it will look inside it and access it. Or even here inside, you will have the event logger, whether or not it exists, whether you do have some messages. Okay. And what it has is, in fact, the app provider, for which you also call all of them, provider 1, provider 2. And as you can see, you have multiple components inside this app provider. So you have it as an app provider, and then you have component by component within, such that everything goes inside the log. This is just an option. So this is basically it, how you can inject them based on a certain definition. So as a recap, you define your instance of the class. For example, here you've got a car that you define, and you will have a drive method such that you display a message. And for my injector, what I will do is, in fact, it will depend on a provider. So car will depend on engine and tires. Engine doesn't depend on anything as well as tires. And what it will do is, in fact, that you will inject and get a car. Okay, and you will have the description of injector, like here. Okay, and what it will do inside will be that the logger will simply get the resource. So you inject and you create it, and at the end you see that you return the car. So having it returned, you display component by component with this one with the drive. Okay, so drive in fact is this one called at this instance of the class, because what this injector returns is an object of type drive. So this is why you have your message. And this one with the rodent, it's again when you have an injector component. It depends on car. You can also add the part with the hero. You have the definition of hero. Then you will have to construct them, so one by one. In fact, for car, you will have an injector of get of car. You have your service, and for my hero, let's say I want just the first one. So it will be just Dr. Nice. Okay, it's on the first position, and this is how you retrieve the first one. So get of heroes, in fact, retrieves what you've got here and whether it's authorized or not. So you can filter. Okay. And when going here at the component, okay, so you have them one by one, and they will be displayed. It was in this one. Let's see. So basically, according to the type, you just have a new injector, and for your injector with car injector, it will be the one that you want to display. Okay. And you can also create by extending them, as well as you return the car. So when you return the car, inside the component, you have the drive method, as well as it will simply retrieve it and display it inside, because as you can see, it's a content inside the div. So I think that you can use a break, a 10 minutes break, to have a small pause from this one.